Hello comrades, it's Captain Communist here, and today I'm going to explain to you all why we should overcome this barrage of propaganda that is aimed at the Soviet Union. My grandparents and my parents grew up during the Cold War, which was a period of rampant anti-communist propaganda. My parents grew up in Margaret Thatcher's heartland, where people were taught to be selfish, when people were taught to believe that it was the law of the jungle, it's the dog-eat-dog world, and that capitalism really is the ultimate expression of human nature. During the time of the Cold War, there was no one who was really countering this barrage of propaganda. There were English literature lessons where you would read a book by George Orwell called Animal Farm and learn to repeat that Stalin was a crazy, murdering, stupid butcher and that Trotsky was the true leader of the revolution. There were history lessons where people learnt, and I can say this for myself as I studied GCSE history, that I was taught that Trotsky led the Red Army to victory and Stalin somehow hoodwinked and then later personally bullied the Soviet people into following him. What was the aim of all of this? The aim was to demonize communism and to tell us that revolution is pointless. And by slandering the building of socialism in the Soviet Union, by slandering Stalin and telling us that he was an evil murderer, is like telling us that the achievements of the Soviet Union were not true. People were taught all sorts of stupid truisms. You just learn to repeat them, and whenever you talk about socialism to people, they always come up with the same argument that socialism is good in theory but terrible in practice, or socialism has never been implemented. People can say that it has never been done because we have been taught all of these lies about the Soviet Union and Stalin's leadership of the Soviet Union. Anti-Soviet slanders are everywhere. The fabulous childcare and maternity provision provided by the Soviet Union, the common argument you would hear to slander that is, oh, the children were treated like crap, their mothers were forced to work. You commonly hear people slandering the Soviet healthcare system, as they'd say, oh, it was impersonal, it was uncaring. All of the artists, musicians, dancers, gymnasts and athletes that were produced at such amazing quality by the Soviet Union, the common argument you'd hear to slander that would be, oh, they were overtrained, it's not really human to be so good at things. The victory of the Soviet Union over Nazi Germany has also been slandered. You'd hear the common argument, oh, the soldiers were starving, they were forced to fight, their best commanders had all been shot by Stalin. And to cap all of this hostility from official sources, like the mainstream media or the school curriculum, my parents' generation grew up with a left-wing movement who were pretty much saying the same thing and disowning Stalin and all of the achievements of socialism from people in the trade unions, people in the Labour Party, the Socialist Workers' Party, the Communist Party of Britain. These were people who told you that they were socialists, that they believed in the working class. They all agreed when my parents' generation were growing up. From whichever one of these shades of left you would talk to, they would all tell you that Stalin was a mass murderer. They would have probably said the same for Mao and Kim Il-sung. They would have said that socialism has never been put into practice anywhere. They would have said that Marx would not have approved of Lenin's revolution. They would have said that Lenin would not have approved of Stalin's building of socialism. So essentially, we have all been demoralized, cut off from the knowledge that another world is possible and that we are capable of doing it. We have been cut off from the science of revolution. We have been cut off from the ideology for a future free from war, poverty, unemployment, homelessness, degradation and disease. Such has been the success of this sustained propaganda campaign that even the few socialists, like the Communist Party of Britain, who did defend the Soviet Union during the Cold War, were not doing a very good job of it. I feel that we were taught to feel so culturally alienated, it's hard to bring it to life. Repeated assertions, like I mentioned before, where an atmosphere is created and overwhelming associations that people have about what life in the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe were like. Inhospitable, joyless. They think of the gulags in Siberia. Everything's grey, everybody's a bit of a robot, there's no choice, there's no inspiration, there's no incentive, there's no magic to life. Stalin's name is basically a swear word. You can't use it. It's synonymous with fear and loss of liberty, the evil KGB, Big Brother, 1984. So even though those who have understood in theory that socialism is a good thing and think that probably what happened in the Soviet Union might have been alright, They can't find the enthusiasm. They couldn't overcome this barrage of propaganda that has been installed into them and say to themselves, you know what, this is bullshit. This is not the truth about the Soviet Union. What the Soviet Union means to me is that it has made it very clear that socialism can work, and that socialism is the political system that encourages people to do well in life. Socialism is the political system that brings justice to the working class, because at the end of the day, the world belongs to the working class, not the tiny minority known as the wealthy elite.